They thought it was cursed, but it was simply due to saving money on materials that the entire dome collapsed into the depths and ruined the city's most important construction project. Later, during a renovation, a soldering lamp set the temple's roof on fire. Priceless works of art are hidden within its walls, so the fire could not be put out just any way. But were all the treasures saved? And did you know that Hungary's largest bell wasn't even cast in Hungary? Indeed, I'm talking about St. Stephen's Basilica in Budapest. Fascinating stories, surprising details, and a wealth of facts that even few locals know are hidden within these walls. By the end of this video, you are guaranteed to look at this special building with new eyes. Stay with me and sit back while I tell you the 7 most interesting secrets of our country's most famous church. Let's dive in. First fact, the Hetz-Theater, a flood and a vow. The story begins in the 19th century. The Basilica, one of the country's most important holy sites, once housed a notorious Hetz-Theater. Lions, bears, and dogs fought bloody battles in an arena for the entertainment of the audience. Then came the hand of fate, the Great Flood of 1838. As the Danube burst its banks and flooded Pest, a small hill rose from the water at the site of today's St. Stephen's Square, providing refuge for the fleeing residents. In gratitude, the survivors made a vow to build a church. This vow became the foundation of the Basilica. Second fact, the construction scandal, the dangers of cutting costs. Did you know the Basilica was the site of one of the biggest scandals in Hungarian architectural history? This video is sponsored by us. If you are an EU citizen and your girlfriend is from Southeast Asia, we can help you get a Schengen tourist visa for completely free. On lovevisa.eu, you'll find clear guides, proven templates, and all the practical tips we wish we had when going through the process ourselves. Construction began in 1851 by Joseph Hild, the renowned architect of the era. Hild designed a monumental, classicist-style church, and the construction progressed slowly but steadily. However, what happened beneath the surface had tragic consequences. The committee overseeing the construction wanted to save money on costs. The huge pillars supporting the dome were built with good quality bricks on the outside, but the inside was filled with cheap rubble and gravel instead of solid stone. This mistake later almost caused the ruin of the entire building. As construction advanced, the weight of the dome increasingly burdened the weak pillars, which began to crack. Despite warnings, the committee did not intervene. By this time, the architect Miklos Ebel had taken over the reins after Hild's death in 1867. Ebel immediately saw the danger and stopped the work in January 1868. Miraculously, just in time. Because on January 22nd, 1868, at 3:10 p.m., the dome collapsed with a gigantic roar. The city residents stared dumbfounded at the rubble, and many believed the construction was cursed and would never be finished. Third fact, the resurrection, a new era. The ruins stood for a year after the disaster, but Miklos Ebel did not give up. He redesigned the church and changed the style. Instead of the classicist plans, he dreamed up a modern, neo-Renaissance style basilica. Unfortunately, he could not see his masterpiece completed, as he died in 1891, before the finish. The work was then taken over by Joseph Kauser, who designed the interior spaces of the building. He coordinated the work of renowned artists, including Karoli Lotz, Bertalan Shekeli, and Gyula Bensor, who created the beautiful frescoes, sculptures, and mosaics. Finally, more than half a century after the laying of the foundation stone, the basilica was completed in 1905. Fourth fact, Millennium. Why St. Stephen? However, one important question remained. What should its name be? Originally, the church was to be named after St. Leopold, but due to the fervor of national sentiment during the Millennium celebrations of 1896, the church decided to name it after St. Stephen, the founder of the nation, which much better fit the symbol of Hungarian national pride. I'll tell you about another eruption soon, but before that, let me tell you the adventurous story of the bells. Fifth fact, bell ringing, from bell sound to cannon roar. Another exciting thread in the Basilica's history is the fate of its bells. During World War I, 5 of the church's 6 bells were taken away to be melted down for casting cannons. Between the two wars, the faithful rallied, and by 1930, a new great bell, the St. Emeric Bell, was completed, also commemorating the heroes of the war. But this bell was also short-lived, as the German army took it for melting down in 1944. Decades later, after the regime change, in 1990, German Catholic believers and the Bavarian Rotary Club organized a fundraising campaign to cast a new bell for the Hungarians. This is how the St. Stephen Great Bell was born in Passau, which arrived in Budapest by ship on the Danube. This bell, weighing 9.25 tons, is still Hungary's largest bell today, and the Basilica's bell ringing finally became complete. Sixth fact: disaster, the burning dome. The building was damaged during World War II, and during the restoration, another disaster threatened in 1947. A soldering lamp used by workers repairing the dome set the dome's wooden covering on fire, and the fire spread quickly. The situation was worsened by a gap between the dome and the interior frescoes. The firefighters, instead of hosing down the dome with water, which would have destroyed the priceless frescoes, cooled and controlled the flames from the outside. They let the wood burn out in the interior. The intervention was successful, and the dome did not collapse as it had 80 years earlier. The saving of the Basilica was a triumph of expertise and ingenuity. The history of the Basilica is thus about resurrection. The collapsed dome was rebuilt, the bells silenced by war rang again, and the building was restored after the fire. This ability to rise again symbolizes the strength of the Hungarian nation. Seventh fact: symbols. The number 96. And now for an interesting secret that probably even most Budapest residents don't know. Have you noticed that the Basilica and the Parliament building are exactly the same height? Both are 96 meters tall, and this extraordinary coincidence is not accidental. The number refers to the year 896, the year of the Hungarian conquest, which became a symbol of the 1,000-year survival of the Hungarians. In the late 19th century, on the occasion of the Millennium anniversary in 1896, a law was passed stating that no building in Budapest could be taller than 96 meters. This was intended to signify that the ecclesiastical power, the Basilica, and the secular power, the Parliament, are of equal rank, symbolizing the 1,000-year existence of the Hungarian nation. These two monumental buildings, on two different sides but with the same height, send a kind of living message of unity and perseverance to future generations. But the symbolism does not end with the number 96. The Basilica is a symbol of national pride, perseverance, and resurrection. When you step inside, the ornate altars, the priceless frescoes, and the monumental interior reflect not only religious faith, but also dedication to art. The church walls hide one of the holiest treasures of Hungarian history, the Holy Right, the mummified right hand of King St. Stephen, which carries the history and vicissitudes of more than 900 years. The Basilica, which went from being the site of animal fights to the sanctuary of the nation, sends us the message that there is a way out of every tragedy, and there can be hope even in the most difficult times. The next time you look at the Basilica, think about everything this building has endured, and all that its 96-meter height and every single stone represent. This church is not just a building in the city, but a living monument to the history and spirit of the Hungarian nation. And speaking of St. Stephen, be sure to check out this video too, which tells the story of St. Stephen and the Hungarian conquest and foundation of the state.